So first off, Brad, thank you.
Thanks, Randy.
Nice to see you, bud.
Nice to see you too.
So I want to go into AI because I have to admit, yesterday had me last night thinking, my mind never goes off, but one of those things last night that you said to me was this AI strategy that Expedient's rolled out. And maybe you can give a little bit about your background. By the way, it's extremely unique.
Yeah.
And your whole story.
Thanks.
But between your background and then also combining that into why you came back to the company to deploy this strategy for what is known as a data center cloud company.
Yeah, give you a little bit of background about Expedient. So traditionally, actually started out as an access business. So I started it in 2001, built it up when telecom cratered around that time, bought up a bunch of companies, bought a third of Yipes, bought, we all know some of the bodies that were buried. So I bought a bunch of like fiber assets, wireless assets, co-locations, all that kind of stuff, put it together, and then sold it. And at that point, people just wanted access to the internet, like pretty much. And we had data centers, but no one wanted to buy any space. And after I sold it, the business evolved into co-location, and then hypervisors, like VMware stuff, then some cloud stuff, and kind of the next evolution in my mind is AI. And so in the interim, I built and sold a variety of companies, like software startups. So one that did cybersecurity, one that did marketing technology. And so like by nature, I like building and selling. Like I like, and also,
same thing as me. I mean, it's
yeah,
my
like
favorite
you're in your natural element.
I do. I like this.
Right,
You know?
and at the early phase, like Randy was talking about, when you're building out a product, you're listening to your clients and be like, hey, what if you tweak this? What if you do that? That's fun. Then clients build the business for you. And so, I kind of looked at my life and was like, okay, I'm halfway through my career. What do I want to work on now? So I don't want to necessarily build a data center, co-location, or all that kind of stuff. Like that's been done and done really well. And so I'm like, I think I probably just want to do something related to AI because I don't know exactly where it's going, but I know for the second half of my career, that's kind of the wave that I want to ride. And I'm a tech guy, so like I don't know how to sell that well, so I need like partners like Randy and folks like Dave to help me out with that. But I just know it's like that's the wave I want to get on. And so like, how do I get into it? Started doing some consulting, like building models, dealing with propeller heads and PhDs and all that kind of stuff. And I'm decent, but I'm certainly not at that level. But then I was like, okay, cool. Well, I've built a little consulting practice. What next? And so I'm like, okay, how do I scale up? And so I contacted the folks at Expedient. All the guys that are in the management team pretty much worked for me back in the day when I had the company. So our CEO is my sales VP. He's an absolute stud. I've tried to hire him away at every single company. Unable to do it. I said I'm not a good salesman. I also am cheap. So it just could never convince him the equity was worth it. But so I came back and I like convinced him. I was like, hey, let me build a practice area. And he's like, well, what do you want to build AI software? We're a data center and co-location company with VMware. I said, no, I think the play for Expedient / us is what we're really good at is collecting other people's technology and kind of integrating them together. So like VMware, I mean, there's lots of ways that you can host virtual servers, but we're really good at knowing how to make VMware work and hooking it into other systems. So how do we do that with AI? Well, it's relatively nascent, so some pieces you need to build. But over time, the way that we think about AI is let's start with a platform. So we'll give you a secure platform that you can access to be able to get like a chat front end similar to ChatGPT, but also an API level. And then we're going to start hooking it into modules. So Randy actually brought this up, and then I was thinking about it last night, and I'm talking to our CEO this morning. I'm like, look, put this in the back of your head because I don't think it's in our message yet, but think about it as like an app exchange or an app directory where we've built the platform. It's active. We've been selling it for the last year and a half. But when you want to activate things like, hey, I want that new DeepSeek model, or I want to connect to these data sources, think of almost like toggles. Or, hey, I need to have compliance modules because I'm a credit, I'm a bank. And I need to make sure when our employees are using AI, it passes all of the audits and financial checks. So you think about that as like modules that are built on top of the platform. So you access the platform, and then you start adding on data sources and modules on top of it, those become kind of monthly recurring income to us and then through the partner channel. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, because think about it, through the partnership. So you always see everything's AI. But where is the AI interface to actually access all these apps securely and know what you're accessing? Like, what's that look like? So I left last night, I'm like, this is interesting, man. This shit's real. Because to me, you use your phone because of the App Store.
Right.
I thought Citrix as an interface was going to be the App Store. Then you realize everyone to SaaS apps, okay? So now you have some app marketplaces for business apps, but still spread out, okay? Because some of these companies don't want to be in that marketplace because they don't want to pay. But you're in an early iteration of this strategy, and if you layer in a gateway to a business that drops all of the data in, and they get to use all of these AI systems, vertical-based, specific-based, you're building the App Store for AI because you own that platform for access. Is that?
Yeah, and I think that's right. And I'm iterating in my own thought as, we're talking about it, whatever, but think about us, we're systems integrators. So when we connect to a provider that has AI capabilities or data capabilities, what are we really selling to our clients? We're selling the trust of the system. So Apple, notoriously difficult to get into their app store because they want a high quality product. That's essentially what the clients will be paying us for is, hey, we want to access these models, but are they SOC 2 compliant and this and that, and I have HIPAA data. Like, you need to figure that out for me and then kind of let me unlock that inside of the system. So that's the way that we think about it. And we have the model side and we have the data side. The part that we haven't added into the system yet is more of those, we'll call it the third-party apps. So like, hey, I need to be compliant because I'm a credit agency and I need these kind of audit compliances. Those are applications that already exist out there. I've talked to companies that are like, hey, I have filtering technology that lets you comply with industry regulations when your employees are using AI. We just haven't integrated any of them yet. But like, that's the type of module that'll be like, okay, you're in the credit area, flip that on, we go buy it for a certain amount, we sell it for 3 times that amount, everybody makes money along the way, and that's kind of the thought. So think about it as a secure platform that you then layer kind of applications, agents, modules on top.
Well, isn't that what UCAS did? They basically said, I give you UCAS, CCAS maturing, now they got all these app stacks to UCAS and CCAS that literally layer into it. And so all these different components and these AI, like one company has 12 months of AI. You heard that Ring Central is rolling out different AI modules. They're basically those modules within that platform.
Right.
And so it's interesting because you see these, call it B2B platform, okay? And this AI and the way you're deriving, the way that begin with end in mind, you're building that interface so you can drive that outcome because you need that interface to drive that outcome. It's interesting because what people don't see today is every software company wants their dollar amount for that AI access. But as you're buying that dollar amount, it doesn't have to be a named user that you can't define. So MVNO models on voice allow you to aggregate data minutes and deploy it across the board. Mm-hmm. So as you think about AI, I can't see where a gateway and an interface isn't needed in that space because every company is going to want to make sure that they can add users and eliminate users easily. They're not going to want to be stuck to that cost, which is going to be near-term value. And so it's interesting because you think through that, I can't see where that doesn't sit there and go, the gateway is needed because I have aggregated spend across these industries, legal, HR, everything else, and all of a sudden you start using this properly. If I think about this, you're using this as a way to actually load balance because you don't have to eventually have a license set for somebody for a month if you have enough aggregated usage on a platform because you can add users and eliminate users.
Yeah, and actually relative to like the Procure platform, there's that whole FinOps aspect. So right now, people aren't spending a huge amount on AI. Like, it's an expensive thing, and that kind of scares people off. But as people realize what type of workflows this stuff can automate, and they're like, hey, do we need 5 bookkeepers in our business, or can we use AI to do a lot of the GL balancing and all that type of stuff? They're going to start using it. Therefore, hey, well, we just took out $400,000 in salary. Yeah, I'll pay 10 grand, 20 grand a month, or whatever. 10,
yeah, I'll pay
10 grand a
120
year
to save, do 80.
Sure, but then having that data of how much you're using AI, because you're going to start using it at scale now, running back into a platform like yours, hey, that's one relatively large area of spend, and you need to know not only that your aggregate spend on AI, but like what mod. So if you turn on the compliance module, hey, you've spent 10 grand a month in AI, but 3 grand of that is the compliance module.
Yep.
Are you getting value out of it? Because the cost will start to increase large because there's all the efficiency
You got
gains.
to have an offset of cost, but you either have growth in value, optimization value of employee optimization, or in-house systems optimization. And then the flip side of this is like when you're focused on optimization with this platform, the outcomes just become better for a company, and they go, I was able to, my downturn's happening. I was able to go into a downturn, okay, and I could let go these people, and I didn't have to add people. I didn't have to worry about the company failing because I put the systems in place for that. If I'm going an upturn, it's no different than building a cloud computing company. You could scale up easily on the platform. So you could scale up and scale down if you put this in place. And I think that's an untold story yet in AI. You could scale up and scale down where people might often have to go out of business, or they might often not be able to handle the scale. And that's why cloud computing, that's why I built the cloud computing company. It's what you guys did. You guys built the computing company so people would scale up and scale down and compute. And so it's interesting. I mean, you go to Ring Central, or you go to Momentum, they're using compute. Their story uses compute. But if they didn't have the ability to scale up and scale down, they could have some painful times.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting because I think what excites me about Expedient's story the most is the foundation, the success, the years in business, and now you're starting to innovate.
I get to be a cowboy, which is my nature. Like, so I get to be at a big company that has a bunch of resources and a bunch of things, but like I get to shoot the guns a lot, and we're like a little small kind of almost entrepreneurial group inside of there. And so that's pretty cool. And it's with people I like too, like people I know and trust.
Yeah, but you just told me yesterday, oh, by the way, I'm bringing over this brilliant guy and this brilliant guy and this brilliant guy.
Yeah, all the guys I started companies with. I'm like, it's getting good now.
Yeah,
let's bring this.
It's fun. You're like, okay, I got some momentum. The story gets better. That's how companies are built.
Yeah.
And it's cool because it's a lot of companies depend on the equity group or depend on who they're with. They can't change course. And so I think the cool thing that I'm hearing out of Expedient is we are a platform company for cloud, hyperscale managed, and other things as a business model. But now we're going in an innovation phase, which we think will transform the business in a way what you're already seeing is clients are signing on to this. This isn't new. They're signing on. You're starting to see a big uptick.
Oh, yeah. Like our funnel has tripled in the last month. And then, like, as our head AI guy is sending me text messages while there's press, it's like, I just closed this deal. I'm like, awesome.
So real quick, because AI is, to me, such a broad term.
Yeah.
And this is it's a product that's already out there.
Yeah.
So maybe some simple and some more complex ways that you're seeing customers want to use AI with Expedient.
Yeah, that's a great question because, like, we're talking about the vision,
Right.
but like, that doesn't necessarily make somebody write a check. And so, like, what people are writing checks for right now is, I want to use this AI stuff. So think about it as like a super powerful brain. It can process and we talked about summarization, all that kind of stuff, but it's a great analyzer. But it doesn't know anything necessarily about Expedient or Dialpad or Ring Central or Cactus. You need your data hooked into the AI so that it can make sense of it. Because that's like a lot of the questions. Like, hey, I want to onboard my people. Why don't I suck all that onboarding data into AI and let them have a constant resource to kind of be by them while they watch their Brain Shark videos or whatever. Or I have HR documents I want to upload so people don't have to ask HR anymore about their PPO plans or those types of things. Like, those are the baby steps that everybody's going at now. So if you think about from the platform perspective, it's like having the brain power, those are AI models. The data power is connecting to different data sources. Think about it as toggles. I want Salesforce, and I want SharePoint, and I want S3 on the data side, and I want OpenAI, and I want Anthropic, and I want Gemini on the AI side. And I want my people to be able to go in, or programs to be able to go in, and hook those two pieces together easily. So what are we selling? We're trying to make it real simple to hook your company's data in with AI models. That's like
So
the
hold on,
baby
hold on.
step.
So that's interesting because when you say, because like one of my best friends, he ingested his job recs into it for all of his job recs. And he said, go out to these platforms, manually to each one, to his team. Get back the job recs that they're going to give, and let's see what's the best job rec. If you look at the job recs they had, and then you look at the job recs that were given back to them based on a multitude of job recs, it was amazing at the differences. And one produced a job rec where he's like, I could have never delivered that, ever. I wouldn't expect my team to be able to write that to deliver it. And so unless you've often been there and done that, you can't deliver it. And so one of the cool things is you guys have built this platform to ingest the data. Can you speak to that because I think it's clicking for me, like beyond clicking.
Yeah, so again, we're like a systems integrator. So we're like, can we find a platform that's really good at sucking data in and getting it ready for AI? There's all kinds of technical formats, vector stores, but you don't need to worry about that. It just needs to be in a special format for AI. So we happen to use a system called Elastic, which we actually sell as a service. But commercial software, think of it as a really sophisticated searching database. But it also has a bunch of connectors that hook into all the greatest hits of data sources already. So enterprise software, super big company, well supported. And so we go to our clients and on a demo call, we'll be like, hey, what do you got? You got Salesforce, X or Y and Z. Okay, we can turn those toggles on and make the connector. Connects to there, pulls the data into this AI-ready data store, and then you can start talking to it. So like instance, I'm going to upload my wife's PPO plan and I'm going to ask our HR archive, compare these two and tell me which one we should take during the election period. That's the stuff that can happen within like a day of turning up the service. And so we'll call it a baby step or a crawl step or whatever. But the important part, like with AI right now, is, hey, we're going to ask you for a $3,500 a month check or a $5,000 a month check just to get started. So you got to see some value relatively quickly and get experience with the system. Once you get experience with the system, then you can be like, okay, I'm going to automate a bunch of stuff. But like you don't want to jump to, I'm going to automate a bunch of stuff and realize you don't even understand the system you're trying to automate. So it's like, just take that baby step. And right now it's the data stuff. But later it's going to be, hey, we're going to add all kinds of other layers into the cake in terms of what AI can do or how you can pre and post process information. There's going to be a huge amount of stuff going on in terms of data. So like when we say we're going to suck data in, we're sucking data in from like good known sources. The real world, big data sources often are just a disaster. And so like what's the layer that we add into the system by purchasing it from a third party that makes that data coming in as good as it possibly can? That's a thing people have been trying to figure out for 50 years. And I think with AI and some of the companies out there, we're going to go find that company who's going to be the VMware of cleaning data. And we'll go buy it from them and kind of build it into the system.
And you're going to see a couple of those are going to come out because they have to come out. It's part of the overall build.
Well, I mean, remember the ISP days? Like at the beginning, there was like 6,000 ISPs in the United States. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry had an ISP in a phone closet, and like 6 years later, there's 5. It's the same thing with AI right now, so it's great, tons of innovation, whatever. But we're looking for the VMwares of AI. Yeah. So like those are the ones we'll learn how to do, and we'll integrate that and provide to the clients.
Got a question. You brought up DeepSeek.
Yeah.
AI platform.
Yeah.
So it's relatively new to the market.
Right.
But more importantly, it's a Chinese-based startup.
Yeah.
So I have a question about that and how that fits in with the first pillar, security and availability. Yeah. How are you guys policing or monitoring, doing checks and balances?
Good question.
AI tools to make sure that entities are protected and that their data isn't being sold off or
Yeah, for sure. So I'll go into the general sense and then DeepSeek. So again, think of us as a systems integrator, or to Randy's kind of point of App Store or App Exchange. Think of the models. So DeepSeek's one of them, OpenAI is one. Those are application endpoints. They happen to be AI models that can think or whatever, but our clients require certain levels of compliance. So some of them need to be HIPAA compliant, but almost everyone needs to be SOC 2 compliant. So first thing, we want to add a model into our system. It can take 5 minutes because it's just an API call. But what's their trust center look like? We have our compliance team look at all the information. Are they SOC 2? Do they have zero data retention? Do they train on data that we send them? All of that stuff, legal compliance. We have to validate that before it makes it into the App Store in terms of models. DeepSeek, the hosted version, is not SOC 2 compliant, but there's also questions of like, it's like the Manchurian candidate. We have these models and they're these brains, but like what's inside it? Who trained that brain? Generally, we would trust that OpenAI is, maybe they're doing things to make more money, but they're probably not doing things to steal our data. And so, they're kind of like the game in town. And so that kind of notion of what makes it into the App Store or what makes it in the model store, we're going to be very, very tight on that. And so DeepSeek, be like, yeah, probably doesn't make it in for a variety of reasons. And we have clients that have national security requirements and all that kind of stuff. And it's just like, probably not going to do it. We'll just
but I'm going to hit you on one thing because I said this yesterday. So one of the things that interests me, because we've been spending a lot of time on AI and how AI wraps around everything we're building too, is that when you look at it, you can mask the data to those companies. So you can mask that data request to the companies. And so as you do that, I mean, Salesforce is driving this as a core function of their business model, which drives up a higher cost to get the data. But everybody doesn't want their CRM data going out to these platforms. And so it's very important to understand everybody's toggling between the cost to mask the data, but yet get the access to the AI data, okay? And then you're thinking to yourself, well, which ones are going to be trustworthy and which ones aren't? I don't think, I mean, no offense, I don't trust any of them right now because I think all of it's a bunch of bullshit, to be frank with you. They're all telling you the story they want to hear, but it's going to whatever drives the most amount of revenue. How many big companies have not had a lawsuit hit against them to where they've had to pay some dollar amount? They fought it with their legal. It's come down tenfold, but they got a product to market that was valuable. And so my biggest concern is that, which is why I like what RingCentral does. I like what those that are building a CCaaS model or UCaaS, and they own all the minutes and they own it and it's their software. They're owning that AI. They're owning that data. Let's be real. Microsoft is owning that data. I think there's so many eyes on them. They've gone past the phase to where you have to worry about that, okay? Because they have too many eyes on them. I think it's too risky. Google too, especially governmental-wise. I think they're already in kind of like the eyes on them phase. But outside of that, these little ones that are coming up, they can be doing some shady shit. And I don't know if that's the case, but you're going to want to look at these vertical-based ones. You can't not want to look at a vertical-based legal expertise where they have ingested this data. But where do they gather that data to tell that story? Where did that model get the data to generate that story? And then maybe legal has more masking of the data. Maybe accounting has more masking of the data. I mean, right now, I fly to the Philippines in 2 weeks, and the strategy on our BPO model is how can you innovate technology-wise to where the Philippines can grow a team to support this? Well, if you can do the accounting as a base level and then you have eyes to review it, you're solving problems. And so it's eyes to review it versus somebody having to manually do it.
Yeah.
And that conversations with some pretty high-level executives of big companies because they look at them and they go, okay, well, the AI and with the innovation, we can start to automate some of these things in a different way. And this is with the EVP of Warner Media and Discovery. I mean, it's a very in-depth technology discussion around what that looks like.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just an uncomfortable truth of like what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, people are going to drive more efficiencies out of their business. And so right now it's, hey, let's learn about this AI thing so we get our hands around it. But we're already seeing clients say, well, now I don't need to hire, not that I'm letting go people, but I don't need to hire as many people because instead of hiring, I'm just going to invest that money into this system that then lets me scale. But the next logical step is, and then I'm going to go look back into my business to make it more efficient. And so that's just like, it's business. People go for profit, and that's just going to be the way it is. So I think you're safe if you're in sales, if you're an executive maybe for a little bit, and if you're a plumber. You know, like those are things that are hard for AI to replace, but like that stuff is like that's coming down the pike. So if that's where it's going, then, you know, kind of figure out how to build the systems to do it would be the way that I'm going about it.
Hey, any questions of me, Brad?
No, but I appreciate the opportunity to come out.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah, take care.